do we mean by prototyping? I'm sure, I mean, majority of us here are mostly developers, so we know what the term prototyping is, hopefully. So prototyping is transforming your ideas into tangible models to validate designs for product release. There's obviously different tools that people generally use. These are these are things like Figma, Adobe XD, Sketch, InVision. So these are the icons I kind of listed here as well. In general, like I said, it saves time, it saves money, it improves user experience, and it also increases stakeholder buy-in. So before you kind of just jump into the development aspect of your program, your system, whatever it is, or your app, um, you most likely would first come up with a prototype, then share it obviously with your users, do some testing. Um, do the users agree with the colors used, the fonts used? Um, is there responsiveness or not? Uh, these things you can kind of deduce from your prototype. If the user does not like anything, it's easy and quick to kind of change these things instead of going into the whole development phase. Uh, sorry. Yeah. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with design thinking. Can I just get kind of a show of hands or thumbs up just to get a general consensus of how many have heard this term before? Has no one heard of design thinking before? Oh wow, okay. Wilson, not even you?
Oh, I'm new to this.
Okay, okay, that's good actually, but also not too good. Um, so design thinking rather, it's a non-linear iterative process that teams up to understand users, challenge assumptions, redefine problems, and create innovative solutions to prototype and test. So there's 5 stages. Um, just ignore this little number 5. That stage 5 isn't supposed to be there, but nonetheless. Um, just to also kind of give you a heads up, you can also find any design related material on this website. It's an international design foundation that kind of also can guide you throughout your design process. So just to emphasize that. Okay, so the first stage is empathize. So empathize generally, especially if you don't know what to design, you can kind of just get a general understanding on who your community is, um, what issues are they sort of faced with. Um, one of a kind of project, one project I was actually involved in last year as part of GDSC, we were looking at how there's not enough access to healthcare um, at our school, at my university. Um, Not only that, although there is a clinic on site, students don't know about it. Students don't know what type of help is offered at said clinic. Um, and also the clinic, because students don't generally come to the clinic, staff tend to neglect it. So it's not also that operational at the moment. Although it is there still to, benefit the students, but it's kind of dead at the moment. Um, so yes, our our problem in this aspect was, or in this problem was the lack of healthcare. Right. Stage two is define, set your users' needs and problems. As I said, access to healthcare, students don't know about the clinic, and staff just also don't care about the clinic in general. Now it comes to stage three, it's the IDA process. Oh, sorry about that. It's being all over the place. um, Now you kind of take all of this information that you gathered previously. Now you try and think of a possible solution. Okay, do we create a mobile app to target more students? Do we incorporate it into the existing system on uh, okay, we call it a minus system. So it kind of it has everything on that platform, stuff like booking rooms within the library, getting books from the library, access to student material, whatever the case may be. We have one centralized system. So now, do we also include information about the clinic within this website, or do we create something entirely separate? So that's what IDA is. And then fourth stage, obviously prototyping. So taking the idea that you created in or that you came up with in the idea phase, now you bring it to the prototype phase. Now you actually try and see, okay, um, my mobile app is going to look like this. If you click on this button, it's going to do this. Is there going to be any forms? Is there going to be whatever the case may be? That's where you now design your overall system. And then stage five is obviously just testing. Um, your but specifically testing your prototype, not the final product, just the prototype. Um, Before I continue, is there any questions regarding what I just spoke about on design thinking? Do we all understand what I just spoke on? Just a thumbs up. Okay, perfect. Um, okay, Winston, your hand is up. Do you have a question? Okay, his hand is down. Yeah. So, and another thing, yes, I will share the slides somewhere. Um, the other thing I just need to put your attention on is this word iterative. So that means it's not a linear approach whereby you start with emphasize, you move on to define, then ideate, then prototype, then test. Um, Boniface, I'll answer your questions in a minute. Um, so it kind of loops. You can jump from ideate phase back to emphasize if you're not satisfied with, say, the results you've obtained to this point. You can always go back to the user. You can reevaluate who the users are and then define, then to ideate. Maybe if you get to the testing phase, you also realize the solution isn't a viable solution. Go, go back to define or whichever case may be. So that's what iterative means. It kind of jumps from step to step. It doesn't follow a straight path. Yes, Boniface, you can ask the question. Boniface? Okay. Or if you prefer not to ask, you can also just share the question in the chat if that's easier. Or if you're shy, I know a lot of times we get shy. um, yeah. Then moving on to something to also keep in mind, as I also mentioned prior, what makes your solution unique? If we think of just, for instance, happened with Twitter and Threads, what kind of makes those two platforms, what differentiates the two? I mean, besides Threads being owned by Mark Zuckerberg, how is it kind of different than Twitter, which is what a lot of users were kind of asking, why should I then now start using Threads if it's an exact replica of Twitter? Um, so it might be that initially you have some users being excited about your app, but generally the hype will sort of die down and you'll be a one hit wonder. So, yes, definitely think of what makes it unique, who will use it, who's your target audience. Are you just targeting, say, students? Like, for instance, going back to school clinic, the school clinic app, we were only focused on students and not necessarily everyone, the whole entire Namibia. Um, and then also, what platform are you using? Is it just a mobile app? Is it a web app? What, hello? Did someone want to ask a question? Okay. And then also one other important aspect is color psychology. So I'm not gonna go into everything too in depth. Here's just sort of a guideline um, on what each color would most likely um, indicate or the meaning behind each color. Then also interaction, how is your app gonna perform on different devices when you switch from iOS to Android? Is it gonna be a difference? If so, is it something that's quite major? Is it easy to navigate? Because also one thing about there's a specific design law, I didn't include it. I actually can't remember the name, but what it actually states is users like using apps or websites or whatever the case may be that seems familiar to them. So that's also one thing to think of. You also don't want to create something that's too complex to understand. That will also drive away a lot of your users. Um, then also the last point, what happens when the user interacts with your app? Um, One thing also that you might have noticed when, for instance, a sign up screen, right? When you sign up to a specific platform, to a specific app, when you register, at the end there would normally be a tick, a tick icon that says you are now fully registered. If if that wasn't there, it would kind of confuse users um, as to, you would be kind of confused. Am I actually registered on this platform? Or is this just a default account? What? So you need to also think of what happens after each interaction. Also, the same thing with when you hover on a button. Is it going to flow? Is it just going to stay the same? Is it going to be, is it a full button or is it just sort of an outline of a button? Yeah. So interaction, it's basically all of this. Um, okay, there's a question. Someone raised their hand. Okay, it's gone. Um, then probably one of my favorite topics, inclusive design. Chief, can you mute your mic? Thank you. What is inclusive design? It describes the methodologies to create products that understand and enable people of all backgrounds and abilities. It may address things like accessibility, age, economic situation, geographic location, language, race, and more. Um, and sorry, there's possible. I also listed some possible examples. Um, these include things like allowing users to customize their experiences, providing captions and transcripts for video and audio content, because when you think about language and accents, for instance, a lot of times it's kind of difficult for users to understand what someone is trying to say. Some people may have a very thick accent and it's not quite audible. So definitely using things like captions allows everyone to understand. Transcript, you can always download what was said and you can translate it at a later stage should you still not fully understand what was said in the video. Um, Sending inputs for global audience. Actually, it should be surname and name because you guys know we come from Africa. So there's a lot of our surnames that's kind of super long. So you can't have an input field like the input fields for say America would not be the same for ours. You know, America can have a surname like I don't even know, Jonathan probably. And that would be totally different from our context. So having a larger input field for different audiences is quite feasible. Definitely, you have to again look at who your audience is. Um, Also using high contrast colors and large fonts, and then also just to kind of couple with that, things like dark mode. I know as software developers, we don't like light mode. We despise it. If you like light mode, there's definitely something wrong with you. um, so yeah, but obviously that's not the case for everyone. You know, when you look at, for instance, an older an older audience, they have things like cataract issues. So you have to use larger fonts. Their eyes are kind of weaker, so they also can't be looking at a dark screen the whole time. Although it looks appealing to you, you are not the end user. You are the developer or the designer, whatever the case may be. Um, so you need to kind of also take yourself entirely out of the picture. It's not for you. You may like the color purple, but purple is not best practice. Purple is probably 90% of your audience would, upon sign up or upon opening up your app, immediately hate it and delete it. Um, so definitely your colors. Okay, someone is trying to present. Uh, just wait. I don't know. Can everyone still see my screen? Someone was trying to present just now. Just a thumbs up. Can you see my screen? Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Okay. Then language and images. So language and images, these are specific to a country. For instance, um, your country is Kenya, right? You, if you think of an advert, say for KFC, um, you most likely won't see adverts with a whole bunch of Chinese people, right? Your adverts are targeted to the market in Kenya. So that's also what you kind of have to keep in mind on your own platform. Obviously, if it's for a global audience, then you can use a variety of nationalities, I guess, in your advertisement. But if it's something that's specific to Kenya, you most likely would only use Kenyans in your advertisement. So that's also what it is. Um, and then also when it comes to that's sorry, that was images. When we talk about things like language, um, like the Indian languages, Arabic languages, stuff like Hebrew, obviously the language would change, and then also alignment would change. What I mean about that, let me just stop sharing and share something else quickly. The problem I have is when you have a million tabs open. um, okay, wait, it's this thing. Sorry. Okay, so let me see. Okay, so this is an example from another presentation. So yes, for instance, with the English language, you would normally read from left to right. Now, when it comes to languages like Hebrew, you would read from right to left. So then that would mean your alignment would then always also be right to left. English, left, right. This is something I found kind of interesting. Hope you do too. So here comes back to images. So like in Japan, McDonald's just use Japanese. And also the languages, you see everything is in Chinese. Malaysia, Malaysians. So even the design elements are kind of different. You can see one thing I've noticed about Malaysia is their designs. I definitely love how they design. It's very minimalistic, very clean, and the countries like Japan, China, everything is too busy. But this is what appeals to them. So you definitely also have to look at that. It's called content density. Um, so this is just online stores. I think you most likely would have seen something like this before. So China, Japan, they like stuff that's so overly trusted. Definitely not appealing. And then I think the US and the rest of the world they conform to more minimalistic, more organized design. So let me stop sharing and go back to my presentation. Um, okay, yeah. How are we doing so far? Any questions or none? Are we following along? Thank you. I like feedback, guys. I don't like feeling like I'm talking to a wall. So thank you for all those thumbs up. Um, okay. Then thank you. So wireframing. So wireframing also actually forms part of the prototyping phase. So within prototyping, you get you actually get three variations. It's called low fidelity. Let me just type it here in the chat so you can go low fidelity prototyping. then you get mid fidelity, and then you get high fidelity. So I would just touch on those two. Um, you can also go Google. Just look up those two terms just to give you a better understanding. And nonetheless, so what's portrayed in this slide is actually low fidelity. So low fidelity is just you roughly sketching on a piece of paper or on a poster or on a sticky note or whatever the case may be. Just something that you can just quickly scribble on. Just how it will roughly look. You also actually get within Figma, there's a tool called I think FigJam, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, FigJam. I'll also type that. FigJam. Um, where you can also just draw your wireframes. So it will generally just be little empty boxes like this to indicate that there's an image placed there. If you click on this button, it will take you to this screen. And then this you can generally just set, especially with your end users. Um, this is kind of best practice to do it with them. It's always it's always good to involve your end users in every stage of the design thinking process. Um, Although it most likely won't happen, but it kind of causes less of a headache for you at the end of the testing phase. And it also gives you a clear idea of what exactly they want, how they want it to look. Yeah, so then you can kind of just, for instance, maybe in a classroom, get all your users together. You can just sit and talk. You can draw it on a blackboard. Okay, what would your login screen? What do you want to see on your login screen? Okay, here, this is what it's going to look like. And then you guys can all just vote on it. No, I don't think that would be feasible. Can we scrap that component? And we'd rather add in another component that looks this way. Then at the end, you now take all of these sort of approved ideas and then you now start with your high fidelity prototype. So now you're bringing tools like Figma, Adobe XD that you can use. Personally, I really love Figma. This presentation I actually prepared in Figma as well. It's free, it's easy to use, it also offers student plans that actually get you can get the entire software. I think you just need to provide some sort of proof that you are a student. So definitely look at creating a Figma account. Yeah, so in short, it is used to lay out content and functionality on a page, taking into account the user's needs and the user journey. Um, do you use to design maybe boosters? Mercy, what exactly do you mean by boosters? And yeah, I use Figma. I'm a big Figma advocate. There's also a bunch of Figma communities. Um, there's actually, if I'm not mistaken, there's a Kenyan Figma community. There's a big community in Africa. Uh, Sorry, it shouldn't be posters. You can also I use Figma for any and all design work, to be honest, Mercy. So even if you just want to create logos, you can use Figma as well. Um, like I said, this presentation I did in Figma. Yes, Figma. Um, so definitely look at Figma. Like I said, it's free. You can use it on a mobile app. You can use it on it's a desktop app. You can. It's also an online one. Yes, Friends.Figma. That's the one. Thank you, Kimboy. Um, Friends of Figma is the community that you can look at. Then Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, I think that's all. Let me just okay. The next thing, just now, I'm not going to go into too much detail on the actual design components. I think Wilson will touch on that. Yeah, what a design system is a collection or a catalog of reusable components. I just want to highlight that part, reusable components. So what that means is before you actually start working on your prototype, you can already predefine different components. So if there is a specific color set you want to look at, you can already define that in the beginning and just kind of reuse it as you go along. The fonts, grids, icons, all of these. Um, and then obviously design systems are beneficial because they speed up the overall design process. You can also use design systems if there's just one you want to look at throughout your entire journey, design journey, that's totally fine. So most likely the one that you would have been using subconsciously is material design. This is a design system that was created by Google. Um, in React, there's a component library called Material UI. How many of you have heard of Material UI or have used it before? Cool, 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 cool. Only two? Okay, perfect. So I'm sure you saw how easy it was to use this design system using Material UI. You don't need to actually go out and kind of define what a button is. Try it and just copy paste code. It's, it's so easy the first time. Okay, no, that's great. That's actually great that it's the first time. Let me see if I can copy the link. Um, Let me just grab the link for you. So if you're in GDSC, especially if you're a lead or design lead, definitely look at also learning these things. So here is the link to it. Then there's also Fluent Design, which is by Microsoft. So I'm sure you've noticed how in all Microsoft applications there is a consistent design. All the icons look the same, all the buttons look the same, all the whatever it is, but generally it would follow a very similar design pattern. Um, that design pattern then is called fluid design. And then Apple has its own. We all know this. All Apple products also just look the same. And it's called Human Interface Guidelines. You can also just look these up on your own. Um, yeah, so just do you have questions on design systems? No, no, no. Okay. Then I'll just quickly run through this one, guys. Um, so you need to also use your space wisely. Looking at things like white space, how is your content aligned? How is it spaced? The margins, the padding. Um, Generally, oh, is it my network? Is everyone can everyone hear me? Because I see some people are struggling to hear me. Okay, cool. So generally, you would group items that are similar together. So that would, like here, uh, so email and password, these are two info fields. So they are similar. So you would generally group them together, place them closer to each other. Login and forget password are also closely linked to each other. That's why the spacing also between them is quite close. Generally, I know in Apple and in Material UI, uh, the, the spacing is 8 pixels. That one I'm sure of. Even I think the buttons top and bottom also 8. I'm not quite sure, but nonetheless. But spacing between similar items is 8 pixels. Then with headings, it's generally a larger space between that. Yeah, so that's in essence what you need to look at when we're talking about white space. I think I zoomed up too much. Uh, no, I can't seem to zoom back. Okay, cool. Sorry guys, I'm IT, I'm tech, but yet I'm struggling with tech. Then padding, so it's also you also find like the button on the left hand side. Uh, Man, let me zoom in again. Okay, so horizontal spacing, top and bottom, it's always not the same. Always kind of follows a ratio of 1 to 3. So bottom would be 1, and then the sides would be 3. So just also think of that. That's now if you are not following any design system. Just bear in mind. If you are, it just you can just import it. That's super easy. Okay, so that comes to the end of the presentation, but not the end. Let me rather say the end of the slides, not the end of the presentation. So let me just go back to my favorite platform, Figma. If you guys can hear my family in the back, I'm so sorry. Uh, where is Figma? Why is it not here? It's Saturday, so it's family day, hence the noise. Okay, so here's kind of the presentation I created in Figma. But anyway, let's go back to so let me show you. So in within the Figma app, you get kind of general dashboard where you get all your stuff that you create, all your recent items, um, and then there's this globe icon, which is the community. So in the community, you can kind of search for whatever it is. Um, if you are also unsure of what to create, why is it not going back? Okay, yeah. So there's some inspiration. You can get icons. You can get wireframes. Basically, whatever you can think of, you can get here. For instance, if you want to create a fitness app, but fitness, right? Um, you can open it up in Figma. So these are also kind of templates that you can use to kind of also just get the design process started faster. Okay, great. So, and it's also nice to use these templates just to give you a guideline as to how you can go about sorting your different screens. You obviously don't want the login screen over here and the sign up screen is over here and everything is kind of all over the place and when you present it to the client or to the developer, um, it kind of confuses them as well. So it's just nice to order it in this way. Then you can always export it as a PDF or just an image. So it would kind of export this entire screen as is with a different input. But anyway, um, so yeah, so this app that this person created is kind of the different screen, the landing page, the landing screen, or the onboarding screen, whatever you want to call it. Um, so if you open the app, it will come to this window. Then come to this, start now, you press on that. But now there's this thing, this little play button I said before. You click it, it gives you um, a real world kind of experience of the app. Yes, Carlos, it makes designs. Now there's a new developer mode that they also recently implemented. If you can click on it, you can also just check on this like Android, Compose, XML, iOS, Swift, for instance, these pixels, resources. To be honest, I have not used this one before. I've used the one for creating. Yeah, you can also use Order.io. It converts basically all your designs to code. There is AI tools, so you don't also have to code. Um, if you want to go the YouTube route, I'm not going to say it out loud. That's also an option. Or if you just want to go ahead and do the manual coding, you can also do that. Yeah. Don't tell anyone I'm encouraging you to use the lazy method. Yeah, so right now going to the prototype menu. It's just so what's the full screen, sorry. Go to screen. Okay, here's the app. It's actually supposed I don't know why this person didn't uh no, they didn't fully let me just show you what I mean. So for instance, there's this prototype section here. You click on it, right? Let's say click on the button. Then there's a little plus sign here. Then you drag it to the next screen, right? And then you can say navigate to the single screen. Should it be instantaneous? Should it be animated? I'll show you in a minute what I mean by animated. Uh, Carlos, yes, a win is a win. So let me just show you. So initially, you saw none of the buttons worked, right? When I added the prototype functionality, now if you click on start, then it goes to the next window. So yeah, thank you, Winston. There's also coolers. It's called the coolers or something along those lines. That's also a site to help you choose colors. Thank you for that. Um, so yeah, that's how you kind of add the interaction onto your application. So let me just show you now the quick little one I made. Okay, let me show you this little website. So I was bored one Saturday night and I just quickly picked this one in like an hour. Um, yes, coolers.co, that's the website. Okay, so there's this website, it's like a car purchasing website, right? And they sell, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Haval brand, but the website, it's a local website, but it's super boring. And I just felt like the marketing around the half hour wasn't enough. So I decided to create this little, just sort of a prototype of what I would want the website to look like. Um, Let me see if I can paste the link of the actual site so you can just see what it looks like. Not the one I created that I'm trying to show here, but the actual one that frustrated me because it's just horrendous. Okay, so landing page, it would be the car from the front with the name of the back, and then you click this little icon, and it pops up, shows the highlights, the short description, the price tag. You can go to the exterior, also gives a description, interior, what it looks like, da da da. Then you can kind of just go back home. So I just wanted to make it a bit more appealing. So yeah, that's what I did. And then you can also do little animations like that. The actions on each button, if you click this, it does this. And then you can do the lazy method and just also just export your code and also run it. So going back to the design system, if you open it up, everything's so slow, guys. Oh, my internet. So it just shows some guidelines, how to use it, typography, fonts. You can also just fonts at google.com. Like I said, this is all done by Google. So it's a Google design system. That's why everything, all the fonts, everything is just related to Google. Then on the left hand side, if you go to styles, it also just kind of outlines stuff like typography for headings. Use Roboto font. The preferred sizes are either 57 or 64. Import medium, da 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 da. All of this small font, it's 12 or 16. Then the colors to be used, primary, secondary, tertiary. Obviously, these three, these first three, primary, secondary, and tertiary, they can be changed. You don't have to specifically just use purple. And error is always just that color. And the elevation, also just how you want your shadows to appear. So these things you can kind of define initially. Has a drop shadow X0, Y1, blur 2, color is this black with 30% opacity. Um, then this one actually contains two blurs, two drop shadows, sorry. Um, and yeah, so you can just kind of see what they do generally when it comes to shadows, what the light mode looks like, what dark mode looks like, the different elements, icons, shapes, back arrows, all of these things, what the screens are looking like, define the breakpoints. If you don't know what breakpoints is, I suggest you just look it up. I'm trying to rush through because I'm already beyond my time limit. Um, and different components. Zoom in the buttons, button sheets, what the buttons look like. So also the color scheme kind of conforms to what I discussed earlier. The different color codes, the primary, secondary, and tertiary. Sorry. Yeah, so that's generally what it looks like. That's the tier one. Apple, they also have their own style. Apple buttons are generally blue. So that's what they look like. They call to action, menus, They, even stuff like search icons, page controls, when you skip to, you have like two different pages, especially like the carousel, you use those. So yeah, there's definitely different stuff within each design system that you can look at. Um, so also, although I only mentioned three, there's so many more, and you can also create your own design system if you want to, if you see the need for it. Um, it's not that it's generally a requirement; it just makes your life easier. Um, I always say that I'm a quite lazy person, so anything that can make my life easier I would definitely do it. So if you're like me, you can go that route. Yeah, so in essence, that is my entire presentation. Um, do you guys have any questions for me? And do you fully understand what I spoke about? I hope it was easy to kind of follow along. Nothing was too complex. Great, great, great. If you have questions, just unmute yourself. Jamie, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. You have a question? Oh, okay, now.
Okay, it's not really a question, it's just like a suggestion or can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Right. But yeah, I think it's really really cool how you guys like you showed us like how to make the components beforehand, like the carousel, all the buttons beforehand. So like when you use them, you just import them. When I initially started using Figma, I just made the designs without creating the components beforehand. So I had to manually make buttons each and every single time, which was really hard. But then I discovered how to make buttons. So you teaching us about having buttons from beforehand, especially people who haven't used Figma. I think that's really, really cool. And not a lot of people know about it until we told them about it. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is so cool. But yeah, and I've used their tools a bit. They're not perfect, but still really, really useful. As you said, they make things easier for us. But yeah, I think that bit was really, really cool for me because I used to spend so much time on Figma trying to make designs, but now it's so much easier with the components we made. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, so definitely, I think also when I started my whole design journey, especially when I started using Figma, to be precise, um, I would spend so much time just creating simple icons. Like just, for instance, the back button. Now you have to physically create a little back button, and it's so time consuming. It seems like it's something that's super easy, but if you're a designer, the little things kind of it sort of irritates you, I guess, especially if you have OCD. So if the arrow doesn't look also if it's also not sort of aesthetically pleasing, you have to go back and redo everything. The thickness of the line, it doesn't look good,
Yeah,
you
the
know.
angle
And
of the arrow. Yeah,
exactly, exactly. So yeah, and also just simple things like say creating the phone screen. If you're creating a mobile app, now you want something to kind of mimic an iPhone screen, and it doesn't look the same, and it's stuff that it's so unnecessary, and it really, really, really is time consuming. But yeah, luckily for design systems, it just makes everything, it streamlines the whole process. Um, yeah, so thank you for that. Any other questions? Okay, Kelly's saying I meant low fidelity and high fidelity. Perfect. Okay, I'll share the Haval site. Let me just grab the link for you. Um, prototype. Okay. Yes, pay attention to details, please. Yeah, there's a feedback. Any other questions or just comments? Yeah, did you fully understand it? What new concepts did you learn that you found interesting? I'll just take two and then I'll hand over to Wilson. Um, do I have a what? Then I don't understand what you mean by oh a restaurant. No, no. But you can always find it on the community. You can just go and search for it. I'm sure there's something along those lines. I don't know if yeah, I did. I think I did show you guys how to search for stuff on the Figma community. You can just look for it there. Yes, Jenny.
Yeah, I just forgot to mention this before, but like especially, I don't know if other people have faced this, but I remember I faced this problem. Initially, when I used to design, you would like a like, really cool design, but you're not be able to code it very well. And it's not really a big issue, but it's an issue when you have like time constraints, and it becomes like a really huge issue when you try to make the actual thing like the prototype that you made, which is really cool, and you showed it to your customers, but then you can't make it, and it becomes very frustrating. So I guess newer people always have to consider that. And I'm still like learning, so there's a lot of times where we make me and my friends make really cool example. We're like, hey, can we actually like make this rather than having a really cool design? So I think that's also another thing that you sort of look at, especially when people are time constrained, like a school project that's supposed to be submitted at a certain deadline or something like that. It can be quite troublesome. But yeah,
Okay, thank you for that also. I think you definitely raised a very good point. Um, so yes, coming back to the whole thing of we as designers, we'd essentially be designing for ourselves. That's just how it is. If something looks good to me, I would then hand it over to the developer, which shouldn't be the case. Um, Try and involve your developer in the design phase as well. So that's basically what me and my team normally does. Um, I would ask them, okay, if I'm going to, for instance, bring in this animation, this certain effect, are you able to code this? No. Okay. Let me rethink then my design. Um, and try and do something that's a bit easier. Because obviously, it's also kind of difficult for us as designers to kind of move away from something that looks good. But then again, it may look good, but how the user interacts with it, or it's not probably going to be the same effect. So definitely also just like I said, try and involve your developers. Um, then these days, a lot of my inspiration comes from TikTok as well. There's people that would generally design. It sounds funny. TikTok sounds funny, guys. It's a very powerful tool. Trust me. But there's people that will kind of show you, okay, this is what this design looks like, and this is the code for that thing. And then it comes also back to the AI tool I showed you guys. You can also use that to kind of just streamline the process again, make it faster. If you really want to stick to that design. Um, but if you don't have enough time to kind of sit and figure out, oh my gosh, how am I going to implement this carousel to look this way, then you can use those tools. But if you want to really, really have it, just use the developer. Definitely use the developer. Yeah, anything. I hope that actually answers your question, Jenny. And then also, any other question? Last one before I hand over? Okay, cool. Any other question? Five, four, three, two, one. Okay, Wilson, over to you. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. I will also add my LinkedIn. You can just connect with me as well. And then while Wilson is talking, I'll share the slides with him and then he'll share it with you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Chantel, for sharing with us. We're so much benefited. I hope everyone is so much impacted like I am personally. So we thank you so much. I lack words to express how much I've benefited from your presentation. Thank you. So if there is no more questions, I can just add some few. I think we're even out of time, but I hope I won't take 5 minutes. Just to go a little bit deeper, let me just share my screen. Okay, so I can add some few. Let me just, okay. Can you see my screen, guys? You can see my screen. Okay. So I am not going to take a lot of time. I'm going to take less than 5 minutes. Some people are requesting to join. I think I might ignore some. So to add on the concept of UX UI design, to add on what Chantelle has spoken about, we should also consider the consistency. Those are the pro tips. I picked some. I had a lot of snapshots on the design systems and the tips to make a better design that looks good. So one of them is consistency. That the style, the consistency of the design, how consistent it is. You can realize the border radius of these icons, for instance. You can realize that this one is rounded. But when you come to this design, you realize that this one is for example 2 pixels, let's say 10 pixels, but this one goes like 50%, and it's making a circular or elliptical design. Then this one is sharp, 0 pixels border radius. You realize that there is no consistency in this design. So it is a good practice to ensure that your design is consistent. Then you should use recognizable icons. For example, these we have 3 columns here, this one, the second one, and this one. We have this column which is clear. You can see that this is a clear picture of a human being or of a human of a person. This is a clear picture of this is clear. This one clearly shows a desktop monitor. And on this neutral column, this one shows human, but is not kind of so recognizable. It's not so recognizable. And you can also see that this one looks like a desktop monitor, but someone can see this as a whiteboard or something else. I don't know. Then there is this one. They are just communicating that the same thing, but there is a difference in in how you can recognize them. This one, I couldn't. If I could see this, I couldn't identify that it's trying to indicate an icon similar to these two, and this one as well. So how recognizable your icons are or your designs. Then there is this one, this using labels. You can have this icon, but not everyone. Of course, if you see this icon, someone will see an equator and are they called longitudes? Those who do geography. Someone will see this one, but whoever will see this won't know that it is trying to indicate something. Like me, if I see something close to this, what comes to my mind is browsing, internet, web, and search. But if you don't label it, someone will think of something else and maybe won't recognize that this icon is trying to indicate something. Same to these files, same to these devices. I even use the same thing on my portfolio website. Let me just share that. I can share an example of where I used it. I hope you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? Okay. So let me just it's on the okay. Mhm. It's taking long to yeah. I applied the same here. I don't know if you can see. Let me try to zoom it. It's okay. Let it just take that. So like this eye, if I could use this icon eye, maybe someone won't know that I'm trying to communicate. There is some information here and it's the about section. I used this one, this logo, but someone who is not a techie maybe won't notice that or realize that I'm trying to indicate that these are my projects that maybe I've pushed to GitHub and such. So if I use these icons without making some labels on them, someone won't realize that. So it's advisable to also add labels to your design. Yeah, let me go back to the snapshots. Okay. I hope you can see my screen. Next is the choice of fonts that you use. You should also avoid using many fonts, and there are a set of fonts that look good on websites. So one of them is Sophia Pro. Personally, I use Sophia Pro. I also like using Railway, Sans Serif, Lato. So there is this one, Josephine, Sans, Metropolis. Yeah, and many other fonts. You can research on them online. Then you can screenshot these stock image resources. You may want to use some stock images on your website, as long as, and it's a good practice so far to optimize images so that they can increase the load of your page. And also if you're having a limited space on the cloud, so they cannot fill it up, so you can get stock images from this one. You can screenshot this, so you can have that. And also typography tools and resources. For example, almost all of the fonts that I use in web, I get them from Google Fonts, and there are too many resources here. You can have a look at that. And illustration resources, you can get them here. I can't load a good site that has used illustrations, but an example is my site, the one that I just showed you, my portfolio. It has some illustration at the homepage, so I got that from Andro. I got it from Andro. So you can also take a screenshot of this so you can check it out. And resources for colors for designers, you can have these, and the ones that like these ones, Chantelle has shared these, and there's also another one that Winston shared. So you can also have these, and there are many more tips to improve icon usage. I already talked about consistency, and you make your your icons simple. You can notice the difference between these. This is a search icon, so it's a good practice to make the icons as simple as possible. And also the scalability. You realize that when you have a complex icon like this, when you scale it to be small like this one, it may not be visible to someone, but when you have a simple icon like this, it is recognizable as long because it's simple. So no matter the size, either big or small, it can still be recognized as a home icon. Or labeling, I have already talked about that. Yeah, that's it. So is there any question or what's your reaction on that? Maybe thank you.
Once I'm gonna just say something. One thing we also a lot of designers or developers aren't also aware of is when you move from country to country, the design patterns kind of change. For instance, in China, they don't use the hamburger menu. So you know the three little dots on the side of the screen that symbolizes your menu. In China, that does not exist. So in China, they would then use, for instance, the what do you call it? They use the discover button or the discover icon to symbolize things extra stuff. So everything else you will find under this discover button. So if you're gonna be developing stuff um, on a global scale, you definitely need to also research who your market is, who are you developing for, and what the design patterns look like for their country. Yeah, so that's basically all I wanted to say.
And thank you, Chantelle, for that good addition. Could there be any other? Okay. I'd like it if we could have someone to to comment on the session and the presentation on on the product design before we just move to the next short session that will take roughly 5 minutes. Then we finish the meeting. Someone? Okay. So I'd like to present to you. Okay, thanks Chantelle for that. I'd like to bring to you Alex. Alex Nyambura is our one of our core team lead. So he'll present to us something new that is Hacktoberfest, and he'll tell us what it's all about. So Alex, you're welcomed.
Okay, thank you. So let me just share the screen. So I believe you can see the screen. So we have an event called Hacktoberfest. It's an annual event that takes place globally throughout the month of October. So what the event that is all about, it's all about contributing to open source projects. Any project that anyone has, you can take part in it and help them. Okay, so in order to participate in the project, you need to have a GitHub account. I'm going to take you through the process of creating one. So to create an account, you go to github.com. The page looks like this, github.com. Then come to the sign up button. will then be prompted to enter your email and your password, a password that you're going to remember. So you come here, fill in your email. And since I already have an account, I'm just going to proceed with that and sign in. And once you're logged into your GitHub account, the next thing you do is .com. From there you click down and scroll down. You can do all that. And then so take part in that. You'll come to the participation menu. It's up there. And then you can also read on how to participate in it. So what you're going to do now, you're going to link the festival or you're going to link it to your GitHub account. So you're going to register now, and then you can either use your GitHub account or your GitLab account. So let me just initiate. I'm going to use my GitHub account. Yes, so from there you can see that my account is already linked. So yeah, from there we'll have a startup project on how we can work on this. I've created a repository. I'm going to share the link. It's github.com/alexmoninki/UoEm_Hacktoberfest. This is how it looks like. So in order to take part, the first thing you're going to do is fork the repository. And once it's forked, you can have access to it. But we'll discuss more on that on 21st this month, where we'll teach you about open source projects and version control with Git and GitHub. But I think from there, I don't think I have much to say. Yeah, thank you, Wilson, again, and Chantelle for the session.
Okay. Thank you, Alex, for presenting that to us. So it's all about open source contribution. So you can head on to the repository and try to find a project, think of a project and uh, think of a project and you can fork the repository and try to create something there. So whoever will wish he or she can collaborate on the same. So I hope we should now be finishing this meetup. So thank you everyone for joining, and we'll have I don't think there is a weekend we won't have a meetup. I already shared the schedule on how we'll be having meetups every weekend, except some around 2. Yeah, so next week we'll be right here with which topic? With the front end web design, if I've not forgotten. So stay tuned and be ready to join in next week. Goodbye. Unless there be a question. I'm sorry I said goodbye before asking that. Or any comment. Or someone wants to say something. Okay. Thank you. So let's meet next week. Goodbye, everyone.